What can we
Mm.
trust?
Hmm.
What can we trust at a time when things very much feel like and we think they are falling apart? Or there's quite a bit of evidence that
Mm.
things that we have taken for granted about the way things go
Yeah.
is not going anymore.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's more and brutal things on the horizon. So what where do we find the trust to move in this time?
I realize this is tapping into a lot of kind of philosophical stuff that I am a real amateur in, around a sense of ground and a ground for our sense of being, and a sense of somewhere to stand. And the contrast for that with that for me is this sense of existential vertigo. That's how I finished the sentence in my head when you were saying, I wonder what the next word was. I was like, I think one of the temptations is existential vertigo, is this sense of overwhelmed by the precarity of what it is that we're facing, the uncontrollability of the world, which is all, is just the reality of being a person.
Mhm,
But the speed of change and the uncontrollability and our like pattern recognition processing is very disorientating and discombobulating.
mhm,
The way we're living, both the speed of actual change and the way our information environment presents the speed of change to us, and the breaking down of norms and expectations. And two metaphors are really key to me, and one is this sense um of deep roots.
mhm,
What does it mean to be the kind of person who can thrive in instability? And I draw very deeply on my spiritual tradition for that, and the kind of the biblical metaphors around. So it's interesting because the word trust is in there. The scripture that this comes from is, those who trust in the Lord will be like trees planted by streams of living water. It's a sort of leitmotif in the Bible. So it comes up at various points. And they will not fear when drought comes. So a sense that if you have deep enough roots, then you can face changing climate, changing environment,
mhm,
changing cultural norms, and not just survive, but there is a sense in which that in the poetic, in the metaphorical language, that there's a thriving, that they bear fruit, that they can create shade,
mhm,
these trees, for other people. They can be of some use, basically. So that sense I have of something about the deep roots is how you figure out not just how do you not be obliterated in these times, but also how are you some use in the world. And the other metaphor that was coming to mind as you were speaking is, I was realizing, sorry, I'm an external processor, so none of this will be helpfully pithy and quotable, but the I don't know if I believe in like solid ground to stand on anymore, in one sense. That the other thing I come back to is like spiritual core strength
mhm,
and a steadiness of soul. And actually the picture that's usually in my head as I use those phrases are about surfing. And then I remember there's another thing from my tradition about walking on water, that
mhm,
actually there is this weird mystical sounding invitation into a way of being where your eyes are so fixed on what you're trusting in that you can walk on water, that you can surf the waves, that you can not need steady ground beneath your feet in order to move forward. Um, and so what both of those two kind of word pictures are clues to is that for me, there has to be something beyond me for me to be trusting in.
mhm,
There has to be a sense of an other, a spiritual other, and all the language about this breaks down. It's why I use the word God in square brackets throughout my book to indicate
Mm,
the sort of semiotic explosiveness of that word. But for want of a better word, that my trust, my anchoring is both down and up, but it is fundamentally tied to there being something beyond us, so there being something beyond what we see, there being something else at work in the universe.
mhm. And I'd like to go deeper into your two metaphors. And w- when you speak of human rootedness, what are you calling forth?
Yeah, that's complex too, isn't it? I I guess the first level for me is a sense of inner rootedness. A kind of knowing who we want to be becoming and where we want to be turning our attention, and then repeatedly putting our roots down deep into that. You know, some traditions talk about your connection to the source, and is that's exactly what a root's trying to do, right? It's trying to
Mhm,
get down to the source of nourishment regularly. And so, on one level, I am thinking about rootedness into my spiritual practices, into my contemplative practices, into a kind of anchoring to the things I want to define my life. And that is one of the reasons we live in this small intentional community, because it gives us an opportunity to have collective daily practices. But it's the opposite of just being scattered and blown around.
mhm,
It's a decision to be responsive, not just reactive. Or
mhm,
do I mean the other way around? That I don't want to just be. I want to be making intentional choices about how I spend my time and my attention and my energy, and my spiritual practices are the fundamental way I do that. And then there is this more geographical sense of rootedness, right? And its long and checkered history of how do we relate to land? How do we relate to real soil? How do we relate to um our uh our little patch of the extraordinary interconnected organism that is Earth? You know, how do we love our particular neighbors and tend to these particular plants and
mhm,
find our home in a particular ecosystem well and wisely? And I both feel a very strong draw to the sense in which, in order to pay it loving attention over time to both a particular place and a particular set of people, you probably need to stay somewhere for a chunk of time,
mhm.
right? One of the monastic vows was stabilitas, that we commit to a place and a set of people, and that that I think right instinct in us is too often slides into a very scary blood and soil, exclusivist, nationalist,
Mm,
um, unhospitable, sometimes lethal forms of politics.
mhm,
Uh, there's a Steiner who said he really hated Simone Weil's thing about the importance of roots, and he said trees have roots, men have legs, and they
mhm.
are each other's guests.
Mm. That's a
And yeah, it's beautiful. And I have a liberal friend who is always who any talk of roots makes him, he's Jewish. Any talks of roots makes him,
yeah, nervous.
yeah, icky and nervous. And he's not wrong.
Yeah, yeah, particularly know what's going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think again and again, I'm like, how do we hold on to the both and our desire to, the way our brains really like clarity and find it hard to hold two true things together at the same time is one of the things that I think healthy spiritual practice can help you with.
Mm,
And so the language I use is deep roots and wide branches, that we need
mhm,
rootedness into our particular tradition if we have one, and rootedness into a particular place, and I don't mean that in a legalistic way, like you could never move house or you could never move country, but that should be a serious decision that you make, that the point of being well rooted is to be to be hospitable, is to create space for those who are around you, who might be different from you, who you might disagree with, who might have chosen to move or might have had to move. This idea of who your neighbor is not around categories, tribal categories, but is
Mm.
around the people that you are given to and uh, have been given to you.
Yeah, the Christ that appears at your doorstep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The It's interesting. So you're part of to part of what you're or what I hear you saying is is that the the stability that one creates in oneself through practice and community and
Mhm.
place, that 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 actually is an extensive trust. It becomes something that creates trust
Mm.
because it creates the space for hospitality.
Yeah. Yeah. The So I think a lot about this concept of rupture and repair that comes up in child psychology and child development, that
Mhm, mhm,
the strongest bonds are the ones where we have had a disagreement or a falling out, and then we found our way back to each other, right? The shallow relationships, you never get rupture because you avoid anything difficult. Deep relationships, you will eventually find something, some way to hurt each other or some way that you're different. And at that point, you can either dissolve the relationship or you can repair it.
mhm,
And it is only like the reason it's important in child development is they need to know that if relationships break down, they are repairable. They
mhm,
need just how you build conflict. You build conflict tolerance. You build disagreement tolerance. You see enacted over time this process of rupture and repair. And I think one of the things that local, long term committed relationships of all kinds can do is they can be containers for rupture and repair. That
mhm,
uh, Jonathan Haidt, in his book The Anxious Generation, talks about the way in which online communities have low barriers to entry
mhm,
and low barriers to exit. And so you never have to do rupture and repair.
mhm, mhm.
And so you never learn the skills
Yeah.
of realizing that you're actually accountable to other people, that whether you tell the truth or not matters, that whether you hurt people matters, in the way that when you live in small local communities, as we did for most of evolutionary history, you have to figure out how to get on with people because your survival depends on each other.
Mhm,
Or you go to war with each other and everyone slaughters each other. So let's not be too rosy tinted about the past. But I think that one of the ways you build trust is through doing rupture and repair with people. And that's really difficult to do at scale. It's really difficult to do at
but
a distance.
what do you mean at scale? You mean
I
globally?
mean, I mean, it's an intimate process.
Yes, yes.
I mean that uh, the way you learn to trust each other is you go through rupture and repair with each other. And yeah, trust is such an interpersonal concept for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sort of relationally obsessed, but in terms of how we find enough trust to navigate these times, I don't have a category for that outside
Mhm,
relationships. I'm not sure we can trust an idea. I'm not sure we can trust progress. I'm not sure we can trust
mm.
abstract concepts. We kind of have to trust someone, I think, or have to trust each other, or have to trust that when we move towards each other rather than away from each other, that's the right direction. That will help.
So there one is to hook back one thing that I wanna dive into is to hook back to you were saying trusting in bracket God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that which is not an abstract concept.
No, 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 not for me. Like
Yeah.
philosophers sometimes try and make it one. No, and then this is very Christian flavored, and people from different traditions will have what this thing that is beyond language, not even a thing. The whatever it is we're talking about when we talk about a transcendent other to whom we might relate, from whom we might come, the the sense I have that there is something trustworthy there is really important.
Mhm.
And and again, to sort of connect this to child development and neuroscience, like I'm really interested in our sort of attachment, our attachment to the divine and the way that affects our attachment to other people, and our ability to trust other people is so rooted in how trustworthy our caregivers were in our early years, and how possible it is actually to kind of develop healthy attachments in later life to the divine, to other people through these processes of rupture and repair. All of that is where trust sits for me. I don't know how that relates to global systems, but
Mhm.
it's what it makes me think about.
But it's interesting because I remember a very important moment in my spiritual life where I realized that I had turned away from God at some point,
Mm.
not that God had turned away from me.
Yeah. I have a Sufi friend who says the question is, uh, like, where is God and where am I, and who moved?
Yeah,
And I love that.
yeah, yeah, and then when you realize it's like, oh, it it wasn't it wasn't that which we're talking about that has
Yeah,
in some ways has no name.
yeah, yeah,
It was a movement I made.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that the re that re it's interesting to think about that relationship in terms of attachment theory
Mm,
and about so there's always repair there. It's
mm,
possible.
mm, yeah. And sort of in some ways, repair is the heart of it, the reconnection, the reconciliation, the healing, the restoration. What's interesting though is so in parts of my tradition, the question that this phrase, just trust God, gets bandied around a lot. And it's there in the scriptures. It's like a sort of deceptively profound and difficult sentence.
Mhm,
Because what we can trust God for is, particularly in times like this, very live from me. And there are really, I think, thin, unhealthy versions of that which get bundled under the label prosperity gospel, which is basically
mm,
God is a cosmic slot machine and we can trust God to give us what we want,
yeah,
essentially. And you see the sort of secularized versions of some of this in the kind of the most trite forms of manifesting and, you know, appealing to the universe to give us what we want. And it's from a sort of childlike and quite tender and very understandable place. But the deeper the levels down, like what are we able to trust for is be very personal about it. You know, a real live question for me in these times. And the sort of very sharp edge answer is like not for safety
mhm,
or that everything's gonna be okay or
mhm, mhm,
that like the techno utopia that is promised to us is coming, or that even if it comes, that that will be good, right?
yeah,
That there is that the what I feel able to attempt to put my roots into is the idea that love is stronger than death.
mm. That's the title of a book.
Yeah,
Love is
it's a
stronger than death?
it's a quote from the Song of Songs, but it's also probably
Ah,
been used a lot.
I didn't realize that was its origin. It's a book by Cynthia Bourgeault.
Well, yeah, that makes complete
It's
sense.
her first book. That
Lovely.
makes sense that it would be in the Bible.
Yeah, yeah.
But actually, it's interesting because what you're talking about is a trust beyond that things are okay,
Mm.
and that's very, very difficult for us to kind of get our heads around
Yeah.
because it's not a head thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's adjacent. I think most faith traditions have this understanding of sort of surrender. And even in the recovery movement at its most secular end, people feel able to talk about acceptance. And this is so helpful talking to you. It's like I'm digging out my own medicine again that I needed. The the posture when the world is burning, that is comes so naturally as to be braced against it, right?
Mhm.
Brace positions, panic positions. How do we fix this? These very left hemispheric responses. And I think for me, trust in that, like walking on the water with my eyes fixed on someone I trust posture, or in the putting my roots down deep, is about trying to move through the denial of the trouble that we're in and let myself feel the grief and let myself feel the fear and then come through it out into the so what else is true? And what was it that we were promised? And is this moment and this comfort and this set of particular systems in history all that there is?
Mhm.
Or is there something else that's true? And
Mhm.
that very deep, quiet, steady thing is the only place I've ever found any ability to to come to rest.
Yeah, it's important that this trust is not a form of bypassing or a form of, yeah, bypassing, skipping over,
Yeah,
trying to get beyond the the pain of what is
yeah,
and what it is that we collectively as humanity
yeah,
are doing.
yeah.
But there's in accepting or the sun is chasing me.
Mhm.
um, in accepting or being with
Mhm.
that, there's a softening, and in that softening, there's an opening.
Yeah,
Existentially, there's something about that opening that is something bigger than than us.
yeah, yeah. And it's the place where possibility opens up again.
Mhm.
That's not denial. And it's the space where I'm certainly able to come back into the what is good about the present, right? What has not yet been lost. What the gifts of this day, the gifts of this moment, right? I really feel in some ways I find it almost hopelessly naive the bit in my tradition where Jesus says, "Do not worry about tomorrow. Each day's got enough trouble of its own."
Mhm.
Like he has this very consider the lilies, like ask for your daily bread. Do not ask for tomorrow's bread.
Mhm.
Like what do you stay in the now
Yeah.
posture and the bit of me that's like, do you not see what is coming? You know, other people are working on the future for the to the detriment of us all. So like,
Yeah.
shouldn't we be out designing the future? And I think there's multiple modes that can be healthy and we can need to move between them. But the one that's hardest and I tend to forget is this coming back to the present as it is
Mhm.
and trusting that there's enough love in this day, there's enough bread in this day, and I will ask again for tomorrow when I get there.
Mm, lovely. You also mentioned earlier, you mentioned practice, being rooted in your practice and practicing in community
Yeah.
as as a source of stability and
Mm.
truth.
Yeah. Is it helpful to just say a bit more what I mean by that?
Yeah, if you could say
Yeah.
a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, the first thing to say is I'm a raging hypocrite. The gap between my aspirations and my reality is always much wider than I would like it to be. And the gift of living in this small community with three other adults and soon to be three children is I'm witnessed in my hypocrisy, and the sort of spiritual technology of other people is very helpful. So we pray together 3 mornings a week, or rather, we pray together one morning. We do sort of silent contemplative practices of various kinds 1 morning a week, and then we read the Bible together 1 morning a week. And we are also threading these other sort of small rituals of Thanksgiving around meals and um, celebration for each other, and the naming and the noticing of the small gifts and the things we want to encourage each other throughout the days. Um, and so I'm part of a local congregation, and I really value that. Um, and that combined with these kind of household rituals and practices are what I mean. In theory, I have my own practice of centering prayer from Cynthia Bourgeot,
Mhm.
and I manage it to many fewer days a week than I would like.
Mm, I think that's true for all of us.
Mhm.
But actually, it's right there is I think a beautiful example of this trust that is beyond anything.
Yeah.
Because yeah, this sense of not looking away
Mm.
and saying, yeah, I'm not living up to what I would hope or
Mhm.
what I aspire to for myself.
Yeah.
The days get away from me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but being able to see that and not beat oneself up about it, but again, allow it to be something that is softening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just getting strange. I think I'm gonna take you with me downstairs.
Nice.
Whoops. Downstairs because my battery is suddenly I just charged it. I must be dying. Eh. So I'll give you a little moment of reflection while I re-plug in.
Mm.
Yeah, I part of don't want trust to become something that only saints can manage.
Yeah. Yeah.
what I've seen, I know for myself and basically everyone I know that we all could do better.
Yeah, of course.
So your your other metaphor of walking on water, I thought that was a really unique way of interpreting that's Bible story
Mm,
of being able to go where it's not possible or to walk where it's not possible to walk,
mm,
to be able to walk where the ground or the water is unsteady or what's under your feet is unsteady.
mm. It's funny, I can feel my feet tingling. I think, yeah, I don't know that it's that unusual a reading of it. The like, it's a straight miracle reading is one, it's a description of a miracle in the tradition, and I think lots of people, I I certainly I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to the difference between drowning and walking in my inner world, like, the difference between allowing myself to be swept under by my own fear, usually, and the bracing against and the prepping and the all of the all of the bits of myself I would like there to be less of. Well, my tradition talks about the flesh and the spirit, but could talk about the shadow and that, like, there's all kinds of language for the multiple
Mhm.
parts of ourselves, and the sort of most adult one of the least wounded or the most steady part of me knows where and knows where I want to be going and who I want to be becoming and who therefore I need to be in relationship with and fixing my eyes on. And there are times where I can, like, it can feel like walking on water. Like, wow, everything is out of control and I am soft and surrendered and I know what is mine to do and I know what is not mine to do and therefore I need to just release, accept.
But there's something really interesting right in that, isn't there? Because the trust makes available action.
Yeah, it overcomes paralysis.
Mhm,
It's the famous recovery prayer, like, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can.
mhm,
And I think this information environment and this moment and our minute by minute awareness of every terrible tragedy in the world
mm,
doesn't aid us being better neighbors or better parents or better campaigners or, whatever our particular set of gifts in the world are, they never feel enough. And the temptation in me is to therefore do nothing useful because
mm,
everything is so awful.
yeah.
And
Well, and everything is also so screaming.
yeah, all
Everything is screaming. So it's like, how do you prioritize this disaster over that disaster?
yeah, and
And even the practice of even the attempt to do that is dehumanizing.
yeah, and someone might yell at you for not caring enough about the thing that they want you to care about. And usually, it's an important thing to care about. But I think that there's a relationship for me between the trust in my sense of like trust in something other than myself and the way that allows a certain humility
Mhm.
that at its best, healthy spiritual practices right sizes us and helps us go. we're not God. If you believe there is such a thing that you haven't, that you're able to put in between those square brackets, then we're not that. There's lots, you might be a panpsychist. There's lots of different ways of understanding the relationship between humans and God and what the proximity and the similarity is. But certainly for me, I find it a tremendous relief not to be God. Trusting that there is a deep love with a capital L that is stronger than death allows me to go, it would be a bit arrogant to think all of this is my problem. But something in here is mine to do. And I have been created with a particular set of gifts and talents that the world needs. And there is this quote from Frederick Buechner that says, vocation is where your heart's deep gladness and the world's deep need overlap.
Mm.
And that is so beautiful and so helpful because it takes seriously that gladness is an okay thing to orient yourself by.
Mhm.
That fully aliveness, that where it feels like there's life is is one of the filters that we can use to work out what to do in these times when everything is burning. Like what can I personally rescue from the fire of modernity and take forward, or however you want to think about it. And trusting that, no, of course my tiny contribution is not enough, but that's not my problem. That's not my not my monkey. One of my friends uses, I don't know why. Um, is is one of the outworkings I find of having something bigger to trust in.
I once engaged with a Maori woman who said, if we each took care of
Mm,
our vegetable garden,
mm,
then it would all be okay.
yeah,
But it's finding in a contemporary culture, finding out where your garden is. Yeah.
yeah. And then there is so much joy in that. And that's the other thing that really helps me is there is a path between denial and despair, and balancing on it does require allowing beauty to be a thing and allowing joy to be a thing, and not not failing to receive the gifts of the day. There's a prayer that I love, which is, God, help us receive the gifts we have already been given. And that the trusting that everything is not my job helps. Your language is lovely about the softening. And when you soften, you can go, yes, the brutality is true. Yes, the beauty is also true. And to hold the tension.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think we could leave it at that.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Oh, I'm really grateful for your questions. They were very generative.
Mm. Well, I really appreciate your answers. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's been lovely to spend a little chunk of time with you.
Yeah, likewise. Bye
Bye.
bye.